Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Luke from Guild Umbra. In this video, we'll be talking about a Stalker tank build that I've actually used in-game. And we'll outline some amps, and maybe we'll learn something together. This is not my most experienced class, but I do have some experience. 20-man dungeons, 25-man adventures. So I leveled one up to 25. So anyway, let's dive right in. The first ability that I chose was Whiplash. It is your basic attack as a Stalker tank. It does physical damage twice to up to 5 foes. Generates 25% threat. Next ability is pretty cool ability. It's one second, let me get the tooltip right so you guys can see it too. The second ability, I still don't have it right. Nano Field. It's a multi-tap ability. So one of my experiences was that I would hit this ability quickly more than once, and I wouldn't get its full usage. Okay. But basically, it does on first press, it does a dot, which is technology damage to up to 5 foes every 1 second for 5 seconds, and heals you for a certain percent of the damage dealt. The second press of the ability ends the nano field, and it deals more damage, technology damage, to the 5 foes, up to 5 foes, and heals yourself for an even larger percent of the damage dealt. Now you'll notice there's a stealth bonus to this. So stealthing up to the opponents and using this will grant you the bonus. It's reduced damage taken by 5% for 5 seconds. The next ability I have on my bar is Frenzy. Frenzy is a channel spell. And you might be asking yourself, well, if I'm channeling, am I not able to do anything else? Well, yes, that's true. But this is your main threat builder. Basically, it's a 2.5 second channel. Deals physical damage to up to 5 foes every 0.5 seconds for 2 seconds. And generates 150 threat. You'll notice, just like with Nano Field, our second ability, there is a stealth bonus. So stealthing up to my opponents and using this ability grants an absorb for 5 seconds. The next ability is Decimate. It's an on-proc ability, and it's a AoE kind of ability as well. It's a small AoE telegraph, but anyway, it deals physical damage and applies a weaken to 5 foes. Weaken is, it reduces damage dealt by 14% for 10 seconds. And like I said, it's on a proc ability, so if you deflect an attack, this ability will become open for you. So it's even more important as the tanking Stalker to make sure you have a good amount of deflect if you're going to run this ability on your bar, which I highly suggest, by the way. The next ability is an ability that you get via amps. We'll talk a little bit more how I got that ability when we talk into the amps, but basically it's a aura, circular aura telegraph that lasts for 8 seconds, which grants defense to allies. Defense is, it increases deflect chance by 18%. So it synergizes real well with Decimate too, so another reason to have that on my bar. Next, we will go into the utility abilities. Again, I took Stagger because it is my most reliable CC. Some of the other CCs, you know, it requires a multi-tap and sort of landing the CC correctly, if that makes sense. So it's my most reliable CC. It can stun up to 5 foes and destroys 1 interrupt armor. The next ability is Reaver. This is my taunt. It is a very difficult ability to land, I will say that. But it taunts up to 5 foes. The taunt reduces damage dealt to all targets other than you by 100% for 4.4 seconds. And the enemies are forced to attack you for the full duration. Lastly, Collapse. Collapse is a pretty cool ability that I went over in my DPS Stalker builds. It basically pulls 3 foes to you, furthest foes to you, destroys interrupt armor on all those foes. And if you tear it up, it can root them or snare them. I chose not to do that in this particular build. So tiers. Tiers are ways to increase the overall damage or usefulness of abilities. And there are level restrictions on certain tiers. So keep that in mind. You might not see all of these tiers, or they might not be available for you to pick, depending on your level. I took Tier 4 Whiplash, basically because I like the fact that by using this ability, I generate 33% of a dash token. So it allows me to be more mobile. Next, Amplification Tier 4. Amplification Spike Tier 4 increases deflect crit hit chance by the same amount as the already 14% deflect chance that I get by using this ability. Pretty freaking sweet. Okay. Tier 8 increases physical and technology resistances by 13%. And let me say this because I didn't talk about it at the beginning of the ability of the video, is that as a Stalker tank, you'll want to be running out of the 3 stances available to you, evasive stance. Okay. Now the reason I'm talking about it now is because 1, I forgot, but 2, it synergizes good with this Tier 8 amplification spike, if I can say it, because evasion stance, or evasive stance rather, it offers deflect chance, but it also gives you increased physical, magical, and technology resistances as well. It's actually higher than any other tank. So anyway, this synergizes really good with that stance. So, I took it. Next tier 4 Decimate. Generates 10 suit power on use. Anytime you can find an ability that can regenerate a resource that's somewhat small to begin with, is not a bad tier, in my opinion, to take. Next tier 4 that I took was Frenzy. Tier 4 Frenzy, landing a hit on a foe grants a defense, which increases deflect chance by 12% while channeling. So again, this synergizes good with the ability overall with Decimate. Allows me to not take as much damage while I'm channeling. That's a plus. So that's why I took it. Okay. The last tier 4 I took was on my taunt, Reaver. Tier 4 Reaver reduces the damage taken by 2.5% for 3 seconds. Now, this can be switched around. Obviously, I took it because any chance I have to reduce the damage I take, being a medium armor user anyway, sometimes I found myself taking a lot of damage, burst damage. And my healer noticed this a lot in TeamSpeak and let me know about it. But and a lot of it might have been my rotation or the way I was playing this Stalker. But anyway, feel free to switch this out. Maybe take something like increased the tier 8 for Decimate. Grants 25% more support power for 10 seconds. Even though support power doesn't necessarily translate into more threat, it does allow us, the ability to increase our support power. Which, and the reason I say that, I don't know if it, by increasing our support power, that translated into more threat, is because I haven't played the class enough. I'll be honest. But that's not a bad tier 8 if you didn't want to take the tier 4 Reaper. This one's not a bad one either. It generates 2 suit power every 1 second for 5 seconds. So if my math is correct, that would be about 20 suit power, because it stacks 2 times, and the initial stack is 10 suit power. So anyway, give you some options. Next, we'll dive into the amps. Amps are static stat increases on these tier 1s. Ways to give yourself buffs on proc abilities, if you will, are the tier 2s and tier 3s. So, also FYI, from level 6 to level 50, you receive 1 amp per level, equaling to a total of 45 amps. But to get the remaining 10 amps to fill out this build, you have to get something called Elder Gems. Elder Gems are basically received through daily questing in the daily quest area. You daily quest, you get Elder Gems, you buy your amp points. So that's the reasoning why we have 55 instead of 45 here. Okay, so dive right in. Being in the tank, we're going to jump in the support tree. To me, these are no-brainers. If I have 3% more deflect chance, I'm going to take it. Deflect critical hit chance, I'm especially going to take. Because like I stated earlier, one of the weaknesses of the Stalker is the ability to get critical hit and sort of burst it down. And you'll see this if you ever start running a tank as a Stalker. And it's not necessarily the telegraphs you got to worry about, but it's the auto attacks from the mobs that you got to worry about. So anything that I can take to lessen the chance of getting bursted down, I'm going to take. So that's my reasoning for taking those amps. Support power, of course, I'm going to take. It's increase to my support power. Avoidance Mastery is the first tier 2 in the support tree I took. When you dash, you gain a defense. Defense is reduce the damage you take by 6% for 6 seconds. So if you're trying to get out of enemy telegraphs, then you're going to get a lot of use out of this, actually, as the Stalker tank. Forbearance is the next amp. Deflecting an attack grants a stack of forbearance for 6 seconds. Forbearance is when the stack count reaches 6. Forbearance is consumed, and it heals you for 51% health. So pretty sweet, especially if you have a good bit of deflect anyway, which, as a good tank, you probably will invest in deflect. So that this amp would definitely see usage. Next amp I chose was Regeneration. This is one that I still have to do some research on, because I think the tooltip is way off. Because it doesn't make sense to me that when you drop below 35% health, you restore 150% health. This can only occur every 30 seconds. So, like, if this tooltip is actually correct, and like I said, I need to do some research, then it's going to fall in that half-to-half, in my opinion, as the Stalker tank. Same thing with Forbearance. It sort of falls in the have-to-have as well. I didn't don't call it a comeback, and I had several reasonings for why I didn't choose to do this. But basically, let me go ahead and explain it. Wind blow 35% health. Summon a clone that deals 10% damage every 1.25 seconds and taunts nearby foes every 5 seconds for 12 seconds. So this can only occur every 2 minutes. There were several reasons why I didn't take this ability. One was because of the cooldown. The cooldown is very long, 2 minutes cooldown on an amp that I'm investing 4 points in. Ability points, or amp points rather, and is somewhat, to me, not a worthwhile amp. Now, it's cool that, if I was below 35% health, that I could summon this clone and it would give my healer a break, you know? So, that would be my pro for and pro against taking this amp. Just some thoughts. I didn't take it in this particular build, though. Empowered Attack Mastery. Landing a hit while in nano skin evasive, which is the stance you're going to be running as a Stalker tank, has a 20% chance to restore a certain amount of shield. I don't know if that tooltip's accurate either. But anyway, again, this is a amp that I chose to bypass. And it's basically because of my experiences with the Warrior, as far as, what is it, Bolstering Strike, I believe it's called. It restores shield as well. Now, restoring a shield does not necessarily mean I will not take damage. Restoring a shield does mean that I'll take less damage. So, maybe that means for some people this is an important amp. In this case, I didn't take it. I just found that there were better amps out there. Next ability, or amp rather, that I'll talk about is Amplification Spy, because I have it on my bar. And I won't talk too much about it because I did earlier. It's a pretty sweet ability. Granting deflect chance, aura, and not just for me, but for anyone who's in that ability when I drop it. So anyway, next one, Last Stand. When dropping below 1% health, you gain invulnerability. Invulnerability is, for the next 3.5 seconds, you cannot be killed, and you recover 70.5% health every 0.5 seconds for 3.5 seconds. This can only occur every 2 minutes. Now, again, like I did with this last amp, I don't know if it's actually that accurate of a tooltip. It seems somewhat vague, but the cooldown on this is 2 minutes. Now, some people will argue that that is too long of a cooldown for this to happen, but my answer to that would be is how often are you dipping below 1%? Very rarely. Did I ever get that low? Because I had good healers. But in some pug situations, maybe this would be an amp worth taking. It's an iffy one for me. I had a lot of trouble choosing this one because I too wanted to go with these two instead of this one. But, for this build, that's what I went with. Last ability, or amp rather, I keep saying ability, in the support tree is that's all you got. While above 70% health, you gain a defense. Defense is reduces damage taken by 10%. To me, this is a have-to-have amp. As a tank, yes, you're vulnerable, a Stalker tank at that too, you're very vulnerable to burst, so this might not see much usage. But if you're, above 70% health, any chance I have to take decreased damage, even if it's a small amount like 10%, I'm going to take it. So these two right here could definitely be argued that you don't need them. In this case, you're going to be taking damage a lot, so you might not be above 70% health. In this case, maybe you're never going to be at 1% health, but in that one situation that you are, maybe it's useful to you. Okay, strike through. I took this simply to get us closer to the cap and allow us to focus more on other stats. The cap is 12% before rating, and that's what you look for if you're interested in rating. The last few points I bounced around, but I got maximum shield capacity to get to this amp, stay afloat. Now, before they nerfed the crap out of this one, along with Forbearance, in PvP I was running this certain build, and I can't take credit for it. This guy came up with this build to where you were regening health so fast you couldn't even be hurt. But they nerfed this down. It's still, in my opinion, a decent ability, especially as a tank. But deflecting an attack grants 14% health every second for 3 seconds. This can only occur every 6 seconds. I like the cooldown on it. I like the ability to regen my health. It helps my healer out a little bit, to where he doesn't have to spam heals on me forever. So, I'm helping the healer with this amp. The last few ones, I like a lot of these amps down here. Let me say that. And so, there's a lot of variations you could go. Like line of sight pulling, for example. I've made the mistake of dashing, and whenever you dash and you get a hit, you get dazed, which means you can't get to your party quicker. You can't get in line of sight of your healer. Your healer can't heal you until you get threat on those mobs. And because the Stalker tank is a melee, you can have a lot of trouble with, okay, your healer throws a heal on them, now they're attacking the healer. And that's bad. That's always bad. So maybe taking this amp might be worthwhile. Like I said earlier, maybe dropping these two would give me 12 points, then I could get something like this. Giving you options. The amp I went with for this build, Left in the Dust. Dashing has a 50% chance to root enemies within 5 meters for 2.5 seconds. This can only occur every 1.5 seconds. Again, this was an amp that I chose because I liked the idea of being able to root enemies within 5 meters for 2.5 seconds, okay? This allows me to not be taking damage and allows my healer to heal me in those situations where I'm low health, and I need to give him an opportunity to catch up. Or, it could be used for opportunities to allow my healer to use some sort of focus ability where he can get his focus back up. So there's lots of situations where I could see this amp being useful. Assassin. After 3 seconds, taking damage will no longer break you out of stealth. I didn't choose this one because I don't like after 3 seconds. Okay, now if that wasn't there, I could see where some of these abilities over here that have stealth bonuses, things like Frenzy and Nanoskin, if it didn't have that 3 seconds, then this would be a useful amp to me. But it does, so I didn't take it. So anyway, can't stop this. Dashing has a 25% chance to refund 25% of a dashed charge. Now, again, this is an amp that I had a hard time not taking, just like I had with this one, because I could see its uses in PvE, and any chance I can to get a dash token back and be able to get out of another telegraph, or maybe reposition myself around a corner to line of sight pull, I'm gonna take it. But I didn't take it in this circumstance, if I can talk. So anyway, the next one, Iron Man, when hit by a CC, grants 1 stack of Iron Man for 10 seconds. When the stack count reaches 2, you gain 1 interrupt armor. This can only occur every 1.5 seconds. So far, my experiences in PvE, dungeons and groups and adventures, um, hasn't warranted me enough experience to say this is a worthwhile amp. Hence why I did not take it. But anyway, that covers my first build. I plan on doing another build. There's a lot of variations here that you can go with. In fact, there's several I can think of off the top of my head, but we'll do one more video where we go into some different abilities. And in my next video rather, I will talk a little more about these abilities and their usage that I didn't take. Okay. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, hit like on that YouTube. If you're a Twitch user, my name is Big Dog LB on Twitch. Follow me. That'll just give you some notifications of when I make my next video. I stream mainly WildStar stuff. My computer's not great enough to stream in-game stuff too much, as you can tell once you go to my Twitch profile. I have a few out there, but they're very, very bad quality videos. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this game. I want to give a shout out to Guild Umbra, my guild. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. Keep up that good community. Anyway, this is Luke from Guild Umbra, signing off.